You have felt it, that quiet fracture underneath the surface where confidence used to live. Not loud, not dramatic, just a slow, persistent doubt that you cannot fully name. You walk into a room and wonder whether you belong there. You open your mouth in a meeting and pull back halfway through the sentence. You check your phone after a small win, not to celebrate it, but to see if someone else has approved it. On the surface, you look like you are functioning. You are showing up. You are performing. But underneath, something has been leaking. Confidence that should feel like bedrock has begun to feel like weather. Strong in the morning, gone by afternoon, there 1 week, vanished the next. You have started mistaking mood for strength, and mood is not strength. Mood is the breeze. Strength is the wall. And the worst part is not that you have weak moments. Everyone does. The worst part is that you have started believing the weak moments are your identity. This is not a pep talk. It is not a list of mantras. It is not 7 tactics you will half remember by next Tuesday. This is about the architecture of a mind that does not scatter when pressure arrives. It is about rebuilding confidence the way it was always meant to be built, through disciplined habits, sober self-command, and a kind of inner law that does not bend just because your mood does. Because the real battle never has been out there. The real battle is in the way you treat the next ordinary hour of your life. Most people do not collapse all at once. There is no cinematic breaking point, no single failure that explains the erosion of self-trust. What actually happens is much quieter and much more dangerous. You lose yourself in small leaks. A small leak is replying to a notification before you have finished your first sentence of the day. A small leak is consuming a headline you do not even believe because it is in front of you. A small leak is scrolling past the 100th comparison without realizing how many of those comparisons have entered your bloodstream today. A small leak is saying yes to plans you do not respect because you did not want to feel awkward for 1 second. A small leak is rehearsing a conversation in your head for the 15th time, sharpening a defense for an attack that may never come. None of these feel like defeat on their own. That is exactly why they are decay. You do not notice the leak until the floor feels damp, and by then the structure is already softening. Seneca once observed that he did not trust his own judgment when he was tired, hungry, or newly moved by someone else's praise. He understood something we still refuse to learn. Your inner life is shaped by what you allow in, not just by what you intend to do with it. The modern world has not made this easier. It has weaponized the leak. There are now 1,000 small doors in your attention, and every single one of them is being pulled open by forces that do not care who you become. They only care what you click. I have noticed this in my own life. There are weeks where I am technically present. I'm at the desk. I'm answering messages. I'm checking responsibilities. And yet by Friday, I have the unsettling sense that I cannot remember deciding anything. I drifted through my own days. I reacted to whatever arrived next. I let my attention be hijacked by an endless queue of small urgencies, and by the time I noticed, I had confused motion for progress. That is the leak, not laziness, not failure, the slow, almost invisible drainage of a mind that never built any defense at the gates of its own attention. And the cost is more than discomfort. The cost is that you stop trusting yourself. You do not trust yourself to keep a private standard when no one is watching. You do not trust yourself to walk past provocation without feeding it. You do not trust yourself to refuse the cheap relief of distraction when something harder is asking for your presence. And when you stop trusting yourself, confidence dies, not the loud confidence of performance, but the quiet confidence that allows you to sit in silence and know you are still intact. The Stoics understood something we have forgotten. A person is not lost because of bad luck. A person is lost because they no longer know what deserves their energy, what deserves their thoughts, what deserves their allegiance, and what should be pushed back to the edge of the mind and ignored entirely. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations not as a public masterpiece, but as an order to himself. They were private instructions for the man who ruled an empire and still felt the day's temptations pressing against the door of his mind. He did not write them because he had conquered distraction. He wrote them because he had not. He was diagnosing his own disorder, night after night, and refusing to pretend that disorder was discipline. This is the heart of Stoic thinking. Distraction, weakness, drift, and emotional chaos are not moral failures. They are symptoms of an unset compass. You are not weak because your phone is in your hand. You are weak because you do not yet have a clean internal answer to the question of what your attention is for. So let us be precise about the distinctions that matter, and that almost nobody teaches anymore. Comfort is not peace. Comfort is the absence of discomfort for one afternoon. Peace is the quiet inside a person who has been trained not to be moved by things that do not deserve to move them. You can buy comfort. You cannot buy peace. You can only build it. Stimulation is not meaning. A feed full of noise feels exciting for 10 minutes and then empties you. Meaning comes from the slow grind of building something real, of handling something difficult, of returning again to a task that does not reward you with novelty, but rewards you with integrity. Motion is not progress. Many people are exhausted every day and have nothing to show for it because their motion was reactive. They were not moving toward anything, they were responding to whatever reached them first. And this is what Stoicism is really pointing at. Not optimism, not pessimism, orientation. The discipline of knowing what is yours to control and what is not. The discipline of choosing your responses instead of being chosen by them. The discipline of caring about virtue, not because virtue wins trophies, but because virtue is the only ground that does not shift beneath you. When you take this seriously, you stop chasing moods, stop chasing approval, stop chasing the quick hit of being noticed, and start listening for something quieter and far more dangerous. The sound of a man who has stopped needing permission to be himself. This is the turn back toward true north, and from here, we begin to climb. The first rung, master what enters the mind. Every ascent has a first rung, and for the rebuilding of a mind, the first rung is the gate through which everything else arrives. Your perception. You cannot control what the world puts in front of you. A headline, a criticism, a stranger's opinion, a memory, a fear that appears out of nowhere at 2 in the morning. These will come. They will always come. They will always come. What you can control is whether you let them stay once they arrive. This is the first Stoic habit, and it is the foundation. The first habit is to refuse to let anything enter your mind without passing through your judgment first. Marcus Aurelius taught himself to walk past insults by refusing to feed them. He did not argue with them in his head. He did not replay them. He did not defend himself against them in imaginary conversations. He simply declined to give them residence. The offense only had power because he had allowed a doorway to open inside him. Modern psychology calls this attentional gating. The Stoics called it something simpler, self-observation. The practice of noticing what is moving through your mind as if you were sitting beside it, not inside it. Once you can see it, you can refuse it. Once you can refuse it, you have begun to rule yourself. Practice this in small ways today. Notice the thought that arrives uninvited. Notice the comparison that pulls your attention sideways. Notice the imagined future that has not earned your worry. You do not have to defeat these thoughts. You only have to stop feeding them. The second habit is to stop renting emotions that do not belong to you. This one is harder because it almost sounds generous. When someone is angry, the culture tells you to feel their anger with them. When someone is anxious, the culture tells you to take on their urgency. When someone is unkind, the culture tells you to feel wronged. Stoicism knew better. Borrowed emotion is not loyalty. Borrowed emotion is not loyalty. Borrowed emotion is leakage. A confident mind does not absorb every emotional current it touches. It listens. It assesses. It decides whether this is real, whether this is mine, whether this deserves my energy. and then it moves on without dragging its center with it. These two habits sound simple. They are not. They are the gate through which every other habit later passes. If your perception is unguarded, no discipline downstream survives. You can build a perfect morning routine and still collapse by noon if you allowed the morning's small provocations to settle inside you unchallenged. This rung asks for something quiet but not easy. It asks you to become the watcher of your own mind. Not the victim of it, not the servant of it, the watcher. The second rung, master the first hours of the day. If the first rung was the gate, the second rung is the doorway into the structure of the day. And this is where most people bleed their confidence without ever noticing. The first hours of your day are not just hours. They are a voice. They are announcing to every cell of your mind what kind of person you intend to be before the world has a chance to contradict you. And most people, almost every single day, lose that voice before the day has even begun. You reach for the phone before your feet touch the floor. You read messages that carry other people's nerves into your bloodstream. You scroll past images of people who are not you, living lives you did not choose, achieving things that have nothing to do with your path. By the time breakfast is over, you are not the author of your day. You are already responding to everyone else's. The third habit is to act before your mood agrees. This is where Epictetus becomes brutally relevant. He drew a sharp line between the person who waits to feel ready and the person who decides to be ready. The first person is a hostage to their own weather. The second person is training the weather to obey. I struggled with this for years, and I want to be honest about it. I used to confuse hesitation with prudence. I used to call my second-guessing carefulness. I told myself I was being thorough, that I was being wise, that I was avoiding rash mistakes. But underneath the language, much of it was fear. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of starting before I felt certain. Fear of acting on my own judgment before the world had confirmed it. When I finally began to act before my mood agreed, something shifted. Not in my circumstances, in me. I stopped waiting to feel strong and started moving with whatever discipline I could hold in my hands. And the strange thing was that the strength almost always arrived after the obedience. The mood met me on the road, not before it. Act before your mood agrees. Get out of bed before you feel motivated. Lift the weight before you feel inspired. Sit down and write the sentence before the doubt has left the room. You are not pretending the doubt does not exist. You are refusing to let the doubt run the morning. This single habit, practiced daily, will begin to rebuild the most fragile thing in your life, your self-trust. Because every morning you keep this vow to yourself, you receive evidence that you are the kind of person who can be depended upon, including by yourself. The third rung, master reaction. Before it becomes action, now we climb higher. The first two rungs were about how you begin. This rung is about how you hold. Strength is not built in the calm. It is built in the pressure between impulse and action. Most people are not ruined by what they think. They are ruined by how fast they obey what they think. The thought arrives, the body obeys, the sentence is spoken, the message is sent, the reaction is performed, and then, minutes later, the regret arrives too. Epictetus was clear about this. We are not harmed by what happens to us. We are harmed by our judgments about what happens to us. The event passes. The interpretation is what becomes permanent. And if your interpretation is automatic, impulsive, and emotionally flooded, you have handed your power to the stimulus. The fourth habit is to insert a deliberate pause between what you feel and what you do. Not a long pause, not a meditative pause, a disciplined one. 3 breaths, 5 seconds, the briefest moment where you refuse to let the first wave be your only wave. In that pause, you recover something priceless. You recover the ability to choose. Without the pause, there is no choice. Without the pause, you are a reflex wearing a person's clothes. This is not suppression. You are not pretending the feeling is not there. You are declining to let the feeling act before you have understood it. Confidence is not the absence of emotion. Confidence is the presence of self-command, standing between emotion and action. The fifth habit is to refuse to speak from mood and speak only from principle. This is harder. Words cannot be retrieved at full speed. They leave the mouth and enter the world, and the world rarely forgets them the way you eventually will. The temptation, especially under pressure, is to say what the moment demands, the sharp reply, the defensive denial, the bitter justification, the outburst disguised as honesty. But honesty without restraint is not virtue. It is leakage. Seneca understood that there is a difference between saying what is true and saying what is necessary. There is a difference between being honest and being reckless with your honesty. When you learn to speak only from principle, you begin to feel something almost alarming. People stop being able to push your buttons at will. They lose the leverage that your reactivity used to give them. And you stop hurting the people you did not intend to hurt because you no longer let surge dictate speech. This is the most pressurized rung of the ascent. It is where the previous habits are tested in real time. The pause, the principle, the refusal to obey the first wave. This is where the new self-command becomes visible, not just to you, but to everyone who watches how you handle a difficult moment. The fourth rung. Master what you repeat. Above the gate and above the day there is something deeper. Architecture. The pattern of what you repeat. You do not become what you intend, you become what you rehearse. A repeated action becomes a tendency becomes a default eventually becomes identity. And identity is the deepest layer of who you are when no one is testing you. This is where most men quietly lose themselves, not in dramatic betrayals, but in tolerated repetitions. The same excuse offered to themselves every Sunday night, the same indulgence followed by the same self-criticism, the same standard abandoned again with the same thought that next week will be different. Marcus Aurelius warned himself about this almost every morning. He did not trust his own future self. He knew that if he did not write the order down, the lazy default would return. He knew that if he did not act on the small resolution would die quietly in the daylight. The sixth habit is to keep the promises you make to yourself, especially the ones no one else will ever see. This is not a motivational phrase. This is the structural backbone of confidence. Every time you break a promise to yourself, even a tiny one, you weaken your self-trust by a fraction. Every time you keep one, even a tiny one, you strengthen it. When you decide to read for 20 minutes before bed, and you do, you build evidence. When you decide not to check your phone until noon, and you don't, you build evidence. When you decide to write the email this morning and you do, you build evidence. The evidence accumulates, not because the world is watching, but because you are. I learned this the hard way. There was a period of my life where I was breaking small promises to myself constantly. I told myself I would stop scrolling mindlessly. I told myself I would stop replying the moment a message arrived. I told myself I would sit with a difficult feeling instead of numbing it. And I kept breaking those promises, and each broken promise took something from me. Quietly, until the day I realized I did not trust my own word anymore, not even inside my own mind. That is what broken private promises eventually cost you. They erode the foundation under the man who is trying to become someone. When you start keeping the small promises, you slowly begin to feel something almost no one talks about. Coherence. Your actions match your standards. Your days stop contradicting your values. That coherence is the skeleton of real confidence. You stop needing to perform confidence because you are no longer living in conflict with yourself. The fifth rung, master your position under pressure. And now we reach the summit rung. The test that determines whether the climb has been real. Everything before this can be practiced in calm, in quiet rooms, in mornings without crisis, But a man cannot know his own mind until that mind has been tested under weight. The weight will come. It will arrive as rejection you did not deserve, as a setback that undoes months of effort, as loneliness that lasts longer than expected, as boredom that no longer feels interesting to fight, as pressure from people you cannot simply walk away from, as the moment your plans collapse and the path forward is not visible, as the world becoming loud around you while you are trying to stay still inside. The seventh habit is to refuse to let pressure dictate your posture. This is the most demanding habit of the seven, and it is the one that, when practiced, makes the others feel worth the climb. There is a Stoic principle that the obstacle is not in the way. The obstacle becomes the way. The pressure that arrives is not just something to survive. It is something to use. It is training. It is information about what still needs work inside you. The moment you stop trying to escape pressure and start treating it as a teacher, you begin to become unbreakable in a way that has nothing to do with physical toughness. When rejection lands, the man who has trained this habit does not collapse into doubt. He does not rewrite the rejection into proof that he is unworthy. He does not seek immediate reassurance from someone who will say the soft thing. He stands under it. He lets it pass through him. He remains the same person he was before it arrived, only with new information. When loneliness stays longer than expected, he does not panic and start performing for attention. He does not let the absence of approval collapse his standards. He maintains the same quiet discipline he had when the room was full. When uncertainty clouds the path forward, he does not confuse motion with answer. He does not chase 100 distractions to avoid sitting with the unknown. He keeps working the next lawful step, even if the destination is still unclear. This is what unbreakable looks like from the inside. Not invincible, not numb, simply trained, simply steady. Simply a person whose posture does not change with every shift of pressure, because the posture is being held from inside. Confidence, real confidence, was never supposed to be a feeling. It was supposed to be a position, a posture you maintain because you have practiced holding it, a composure you can trust because you have built it deliberately, rung by rung, habit by habit, day by day. This is the summit test, and the man who has climbed the previous rungs will find on this final one that his footing is steadier than he expected, because the climb itself was the training, the mind that no longer scatters. Now step back, look at the whole ascent. Look at the mind that has been rebuilt through these 7 habits, not the mind glued together overnight by a motivational video, but the mind built on quieter, harder mornings and harder, more honest evenings. What does that mind no longer tolerate? It no longer tolerates news that was not chosen. It no longer tolerates conversation it did not want to have. It no longer tolerates comparison that was not invited. It no longer tolerates emotional reactions it does not understand. It no longer tolerates broken private promises. It no longer tolerates days ruled by mood instead of intention. What does that mind move differently toward? It moves toward silence as a place of strength, not absence. It moves toward discomfort as a place of training. It moves toward restraint as a place of dignity. It moves toward duty as a place of meaning. It moves toward solitude as a place of self-respect, not punishment. What kind of peace has this person earned? Not the cheap peace of distraction, not the brittle peace of being flattered, not the fragile peace of being left alone, the deep, earned peace of someone who has stopped scattering their attention across every cheap demand of the world and gathered it back into their own hands. This is the man who no longer scans a room to see whether he belongs in it. This is the man whose internal voice has become stronger than the voices who want something from him. This is the man who knows that confidence is not noise. Confidence is the discipline of returning again and again to what is yours to do, regardless of how you feel about doing it. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself that very few things are needed for a man to live a good life, but those very few things must be guarded with everything he has. The man who has built the 7 habits is guarding them. Not because he feels strong today, because he has decided to be strong regardless of whether he feels it. That is the architecture of a mind that no longer scatters, the daily vow. This is where the ascent must convert insight into conduct. Insight without conduct is just another leap. You came into this conversation already suspecting that confidence has been leaving you quietly, that you have been mistaking mood for strength, that you have been giving away attention to things that did not deserve your name, that you have been tolerating small weaknesses inside a structure that is supposed to be your life. Let this vow be the counterweight. I will guard what enters my mind before I trust my reactions. I will move before my mood agrees. I will insert a pause where my reflexes used to be. I will speak from principle, not pressure. I will keep the promises I make to myself, especially the ones no one else will see. I will stand under pressure without letting it rewrite my posture. I will rebuild my confidence, not as a feeling, but as a discipline, rung by rung, habit by habit, day by day. This is what it means to be mentally unbreakable. Not to never be tested, to be tested and remain intact. If this resonated, like the video. Comment with the line that hit you hardest. Subscribe for grounded Stoic philosophy and the kind of self-mastery that does not require permission from the world, because strength was never meant to be borrowed from a mood. It was meant to be built, rung, by a man who decided that the next ordinary day was a place to practice his standard. And that man, if he keeps climbing, is no longer the man who walked into this video. He is the man who walked out.